Welcome to part 5 of the Metroid Zero Mission Commentary, ladies and gentlemen. Now it's time for the worldwide cleanup. Are you guys ready?
Well, you see, if you were playing the game normally, this would be just like 5 minutes until the very end. I love the remix of the Brinstar theme that you get after you get like all of your stuff back. That's awesome. But yeah, one of the things about Metroid Zero Mission is that once you get all of these things, you have to go back and collect a whole bunch of shit. And for the record, Fusion did this too, which is part of the reason why I've never gone out of my way to 100% Metroid Fusion, or Zero Mission for that matter, but it's obnoxious.
Fusion does it better, though. If to compare the two between Fusion and Zero Mission, the Game Boy Advance Metroid games, Fusion handles 100% better than Zero Mission. Because, like Super Metroid, you can get most of the items along the way.
You still have to visit almost every...
You still have to visit every sector, except for Sector 4 if you get everything along the way the first time. But you do have to revisit every sector, yes.
Also, I love these... Okay, one thing that I do love about this section, those space pirates give you no amount of shit throughout this part of the game, and they go down so easily once you power up your suit. I love that.
It is satisfying to just blow through enemies that gave you grief. But, the thing that I like most about this added section of the game is that, you know, most players who come back to Zero Mission are doing so in the context of the overall series and mythos. And then, in the original game, you actually get this entire section of the game that, without dialogue, mind you, is entirely just about Samus as a character and her struggle with the space pirates. Like, we've dealt with the Metroids, we've dealt with Mother Brain, the mission is accomplished, and all we need to do is get out of this dangerous situation. But it's literally...
Since our spaceship crashed on the planet, we need to find these creatures called Pikmin and get our 30 space parts back.
Yeah, it's just, you know, she has to go into these Chozo ruins on what is essentially her adoptive home planet, even, and this whole sequence is, and then she escapes from the very people who basically wrecked her life. It's without actually having cutscenes or dialogue, this section of the game, you feel pretty damn invested in who you're playing as for a change.
Yeah. One of the complaints about Other M's story that I do agree with is that it kind of undermines the fact that Samus wasn't raised by humans, she was raised by the Chozo.
No game before Other M ever really delved into Samus's backstory.
Yeah, and I do think that I think that basically ignoring the fact that the Chozo had any like impact on anything did kind of undermine Samus's unique.
Well, you get shades of that here in Zero Mission.
Yeah, well, it's just in the terms of Other M, I think it would actually be very interesting to see how Samus is isolated from other people due to the fact that she wasn't raised by humans; she was raised by Chozo, and that
she doesn't go caca everywhere.
Yeah, but it's more annoying in the sense that that's a part of Samus's backstory that, for whatever reason, they opted not to flesh out at all, because the Chozo do not factor into that story even slightly.
I would say, unless some manual of some Metroid game covers it beforehand, to my knowledge, one doesn't exist, but the closest you ever get to seeing that the space pirates are a deeper enemy of Samus than we realize is actually an ending image of Metroid Fusion that is only available in the Japanese version.
It is? Well, there's the manga, which I think is considered canon now, but
I don't know the
Well,
status of canon for the manga. I know the manga. I know if the manga is a thing. Whether or not it's canon is highly debated.
I know that the manga was the first thing to introduce Ridley killing Samus's parents.
Yeah, but I'm talking about within the game itself. Not so much from supplementary material, but within the game itself. To my knowledge, the first time we ever get some sort of hint that the space pirates are a deeper enemy of Samus than we think is an ending image of Metroid Fusion, where, and everybody knows what I'm talking about, like the ending images they can get for beating the game. One of them shows Samus in deep thought, and she's having a flashback to when the space pirates initially raided her home.
Do they show that in the image, or is it just
it's the bottom part of the image is Samus in her fusion suit, and above her is like a thought bubble, and it's showing her as a baby being attacked by space pirates with her mother, like, by her side.
Oh, okay. Well, I can. It's weird because I think that would have been interesting
Yeah.
to keep, but
That-
also the fact that you're saying that it's in a thought bubble seems kind of.
I can link you an image because that's the best way I can describe it.
Okay.
Yeah, but you know, the reason I'm talking about this as a good story element isn't just that it fleshes Samus out, or from even strictly a writing perspective, but I am a believer that video games should try to tell at least part of their story through the gameplay itself. Now,
Yes.
when just with basic information about Samus, you can understand the kind of tension that this character would be feeling when suddenly she doesn't have her power suit anymore and she finds herself having to sneak through the mothership of the alien race that destroyed her home. And you don't have to actually have a cutscene about that. You don't even have to zoom in on their face and show how afraid they are. It's just something that enhances the gameplay because you understand the scenario.
And I completely understand. I get that it may have been impossible back in Metroid's inception to elaborate on story details like that because of the limitations of the console. But if you plan on making us believe this or that, you have to lay the foundation earlier than like the 8th or 9th game in the series.
Yeah, it's just
That you know,
It's,
all right.
they're
all right,
taking logical
I'm bringing.
conclusions.
I'm
My
bringing.
okay.
I'm
you go
bringing up. I'm bringing up the PTSD scene myself this time, and my biggest problem is not the fact that she has it at all. It's the timing of it.
first. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense because it's a logical conclusion, considering if you just take the facts.
Like if you give me like
Samus,
if
if you without any game, it's just like Samus as a child, space pirates attacked her colony, Ridley killed her parents in front of her.
yeah.
That is a scenario in which it is incredibly believable that she would have trauma.
Tell me
from.
Other M takes place before the first game, and I buy it.
It's,
I would have no problem with the scene at all. It was like, oh yeah, of course, that's the space dragon that killed her
Yeah,
parents.
it's just that even in the context of Sakamoto canon, it takes place after Metroid,
we got a name for it
Metroid
now.
2, and Other M.
Well-
And that's just in the games that Sakamoto accepts as canon. If we're to accept the full canon that includes the Prime series, that's a hell of a lot of fights with Ridley.
and to be okay, if and I'm gonna play devil's advocate here, we don't ever get to see Samus's thoughts at any point. And
Yeah.
She never freezes, which is the thing.
She never
Well,
freezes,
there's-
but you know, this is okay. This is Metroid 1. This is her first encounter with Ridley, canonically.
we do.
And
we
do you
get
know
a
what?
scene of her staring.
We get a scene of her turning around and staring, and obviously she snapped back out of it in time to actually fight, which is not what happened in Other M.
Well, again, like it's one of those things where trauma attacks don't work the same way every time. But obviously, the thing here is that if any attempt to say Samus has PTSD in these older games is something that we're doing after the fact, because when they were making Metroid 1, when they were making Zero Mission, when they were making Super Metroid, Ridley was just a boss fight. The Ridley having a deeper meaning with that was something that they added in after the fact in
As early as whenever the manga was written.
Yeah, well, in terms of the manga, it's like, oh, she has trauma. I fought Ridley. I don't have trauma anymore. It's kind of like hokey like that. So I'm not gonna say the manga was the greatest written thing ever, but honestly, I think that they dived into a subject matter that they weren't prepared to handle, because PTSD is such a complex and troubling thing.
It's such a complex and troubling thing that I would just outright say they should not have attempted to implement it retroactively.
Yes, agreed, completely.
Yeah,
So-
there are some things that you can add in as explanations later as you come to understand the story that you're telling a little more. And then there are some things that absolutely just have to be planned from the goddamn fucking beginning because they don't work otherwise.
Yes.
Samus's fear of Ridley is one of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just
But man, I was talking about how good this story sequence was.
I can't wait until we get to Other M and that goddamn scene, and then we're all like, eh.
Well, you know what? We've kind of said all that we need to say. I can't bring myself to get angry about it because I get what they were trying to do, and I don't know.
For my part, I wasn't as big a Metroid fan at the time of initially playing Other M that I could have gotten angry about it myself. I played Other M and Super Metroid around the same time. I think I may have played Other M first, or I think I may have played it in the lead-in to Other M. I don't really remember what the order was, but that was when I got into the Metroid series as a fan. Apart from that, I'd played like a third of Prime.
Well, Other M, I still will say plays okay. Like the combat's fun enough. It doesn't play like a Metroid game.
I wouldn't say. No, I would say it's I don't mean to sound like too angry when I say this. To me, it's sort of a bastardization of Fusion. I'm
not saying it's great.
I mean, it's not a bad game. I mean, if we're ignoring the worst part of it, which is the story and all that,
which you can skip everything.
Yeah. If you just break it down to the gameplay itself, it's not a bad game. At that point, my complaints come with why the hell am I controlling a 3D character with a D-pad?
The only part of Metroid Other M's fundamental gameplay I have a problem with is why? What was the point of restricting it to a sideways controller? Were you trying to evoke more nostalgia by making it feel like we were
Sakamoto really loved Crash Bandicoot.
You know what? It would have made, if they had just put in the nunchuck, it would have made both the 3D control better, and also like you wouldn't have to awkwardly like fumble with your hands in order to do the first person shit as well.
Yeah, just hold down a button. Hold down a button, shift into first person. You know that thing other games do. And
it would have been a lot smoother too if they. Man, I honestly want to see them give the style a shot, because I think like a third-person Metroid game would be fun to play.
I would not be against another attempt.
Yeah, another game in that style, less linear railroading, and if you're going to have cutscenes with dialogue again, do them better and get better voice actors for the dubs.
By the way, this 3 minute backtrack to Drazodia was all to get that power bomb tank. Now we're heading back out.
Oh man.
Also, if we're gonna talk about other improvements to another Other M style game, have a soundtrack, please. One of my biggest pet peeves about Other M, this should just be Metroid Other M Part 0. But one of my biggest pet peeves about Other M is that throughout the entire game they have the bassline like build up to Samus's theme, which I love.
I love
and
that
they never
too.
play Samus's theme, like the booming orchestral piece. It's
the ultimate
such
tease.
a missed opportunity. I know.
I was like, I got this boner, but now I want to come.
I thought
and now
that
you're
they were
just
gonna
teasing
save
me.
it. I thought that they were going to save it for the credits, and then it never happened, and I'm sad.
Yeah.
Actually, awkward story aside, that would have been a really effective musical cue. If there's one thing I love in games, it's that when they really pay attention to how their music can affect the story sequences in a given scene. And yeah, that would have been a really satisfying way to end the game.
Other M soundtrack is generic.
Yeah,
very generic.
It's just it doesn't have a melody at
there are exceptions, besides the obvious Ridley theme, which I think Other M has the best incarnation of.
Yeah, that theme kicks ass.
The theme that plays when you're fighting like Baby Ridley for the first time, when it's still in that like four-legged bestial form. That's pretty cool, even though that's kind of like a riff on Ridley's theme, so that may be why.
I do like the theme that plays when you're escaping from, what was it called, Sector 0. I like that theme. I think that one of the Ice Area themes remixes one of the Ice Area themes from Fusion, but I'd have to double.
Yeah, it's just kind of weird because, Metroid Prime, the game that's super atmospheric and stuff, has really great, catchy music all over the place.
Yeah.
And then Metroid Other M, the game in which you're running around like a rabid chimpanzee, kind of like you're doing on screen right now, because it's trying to emulate that fast, flowful feel that the 2D games have, so you don't really get as much atmospheric feel from the game. it tries to be all atmospheric with its music, so I don't know. It's like they exchange soundtracks through Time Machine.
Good to see the elevators made out of Nintendium.
Oh yeah, you're right. The area does look blown to shit. Wow.
The walls are made of Nokia phones.
Yeah.
So wait, hold on. That's why Mother Brain couldn't do anything. She's just a Nokia phone attached to a brain. Wow.
Ah, shit. No bars.
The green stuff you take damage from even in the gravity suit. Wow.
Can't even run
pure
Hearthstone.
Pure acid. Huzzah!
Whoosh. Wait, that's all you have to do in Torian?
That power bomb underneath Mother Brain's tank and this missile tank. That's the only reason why we're here. Now we gotta get out.
Can you actually access that stuff while the place isn't blown to hell?
No.
Oh, so there's
There's no way to get the speed required to do the horizontal shine spark, and I think even then those blocks are not technically there until it's destroyed.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's a backtracky power-up pickup side quest thing that I can get behind, because it makes sense that there'd be stuff that you couldn't get to before.
What I find really weird is that underneath Mother Brain's tank was a power bomb expansion. In Super Metroid, there was a missile tank there instead, which means someone actively went there again and put another item in there.
Well, one thing that I did like, up in Criteria near the ship, there was an item, like, up to the top left. Isn't there an item there in Super Metroid, too?
Yeah, well, there's a whole different area in Super Metroid there.
Well, the thing is, like, the missile tanks don't make sense. They're just a part of the game that just exist.
Yeah, but, that's...
Who took my power bomb?
That sort of stuff you can ignore. The morph ball being exactly where it started at the start of Super Metroid is just kind of dumb.
I understand them leaving like Chozotech because the Varia suit is Chozotech, so like
but that's
like
no, that's the morph ball that you picked up in the first game, and it's exactly where you picked it up from.
Well, now it's a new one.
So what did Samus do?
Hold on.
Go
Samus
back and put it back?
Again, like a Chozo goes like, what the fuck happened to my morph ball? Okay, I'm gonna put another one here. Don't nobody take this.